How long does it take to turn a true profit with YieldMax ETFs? Meaning, if we buy the ETF and use the dividend as cash flow, how long until we get 100% of when we invested out of the fund from the yield? In other words, when money printer, when do we get to start playing with house money? When does our biggest concern become what do we do with this cash flow? The setup for this backtest is very simple. We buy one share when the ETF was first available. We figure out how much the ETF paid out in dividend cents, and then we figure out how much that share is worth today in December of 2024. With that data, we'll be able to figure out if the position overall is in profit, by how much, and how close we are to 100% return on investment from the yield. Remember, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not qualified to give you that sort of advice, but you are more than welcome to the data. Initial price and current price data were gathered from Google on December 9th, 2024. Yield payouts were gathered from YieldMax's website. First up, TSLY. Now, of course, TSLY had a reverse stock split, so we are factoring that into the mix at the very beginning. So initially, one share per split was worth $20.44. That means if we bought two shares pre-split, we paid $40.88. After the split, the one share we would own is now worth $15.73. The dividends per the YieldMax website have been doubled pre-split and recorded per one share after the split. So our dividends in our scenario are calculated as adding up all the dividends as written out on the website because we had two shares pre-split and one share post-split. So in total, we paid $40.88. We were paid out $28.70, and the share is worth $15.73. So our total value is $44.43. We are up $3.55 or 8.69% since inception. To keep the math simple, I averaged out the dividend payout for TSLY post-stock split, and it was 85 cents per share. So we need an additional $12.17 in payouts to reach a true 100% return. If the average payout since the stock split stays the same, it would take us just over 14 months to get a 100% yield payout. Up next, OARK. Our initial one share was worth $20.02. We were paid out $11.08 since inception. The share is now worth $11.19. So we have a total value of $22.27. We are up $2.25 or 11.26% since inception. We need an additional $8.93 in yield, and on average, OARK has paid out a dividend of 46 cents per month. If the average payout remains the same, it would take just over 19 months of dividend payouts to get all of our money back. APLY. Its initial share price was $20.10. We were paid out $6.89, and the share is now worth $18.23, giving us a total value of $25.12. We would be up $5.02 or 25%. The average of the dividends paid out was 38 cents per share. We need an additional $13.20 in yield to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take another 34.74 months. NVDY. Initially, the share was worth $19.83. We were paid out $24.57. The share is now worth $24.48, giving us a total value of $49.05. We would be up $29.22 or 147%. The average monthly dividend payout was $1.29, and holders since inception are playing with house money. AMZY. The initial share price was $20.46. We were paid out $10.26. The share is now worth $20.25, giving us a total value of $30.51, meaning the position is up $10.05 or 49%. The average monthly dividend per share paid out is 68 cents. So we need an additional $10.19 to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take just under 15 months. FBY. The initial share price was $20.63. We were paid out $12.07. The share is now worth $19.65, giving us a total value of $31.72, up $11.09 or 53%. The average monthly dividend paid out was 75 cents per share. We need an additional $8.55 to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 11.3 months. GOOY. The initial share price was $20.50. We were paid out $6.25. The share is now worth $14.65 for a total value of $20.90. We would be up about 40 cents or 1.98%. The average monthly dividend payout was 39 cents, and we need an additional $14.24 from the yield to break even. It would take 36.42 months, assuming the average dividend payout remained the same. CONY. The initial share price was $18.42. We were paid out $23.70. The share is now worth $17.90. $40.97, giving us a total value of $41.67. We would be up $23.25 or 126%. The average dividend paid out was $1.69 per share per month, and CONY is playing with house money. NFLY, the initial share price was $19.31. We were paid out $10.38, and the share is now worth $19.60, giving us a total value of $29.98, meaning we are up $10.67 or 55%. The average monthly dividend was 69 cents. We need an additional $8.92 in yield to break even, so if the average payout remains the same, it would take about 13 more months. DISO, the initial share price was $20.16. We were paid out $7.31. The share is now worth $17.60, giving us a total value of $24.91. We are up $4.75 or 23%. The average of the dividends paid out was 52 cents per share per month, and we need an additional $12.84 in yield to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 24.6 months to break even. MSFO, the initial share price was $20.18. We were paid out $7.41. The share is now worth $19.25, giving us a total value of $22.66. We're up $6.48 or 32%. The average monthly dividend payout was 53 cents. We need an additional $13.03 in yield. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 24.6 months to break even. XOMO, the initial share price was $20.28. We were paid out $4.59. The share is now worth $15.67, giving us a total value of $20.26. We are down 2 cents or 0.1%. The average of the monthly dividend paid out is 30 cents per share. We need an additional $15.68 in yield. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 51.24 months. JPMO, the initial share price was $20.36. We were paid out $5.52. The share is now worth $18.52 for a total value of $24.04. We are up $3.68 or 18%. The average monthly dividend was 36 cents. We need an additional $14.83 in yield. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 40.27 months to get it. AMDY, the initial share price was $18.96. We were paid out $12.37. The share is now worth $11.20. This gives us a total value of $23.57, meaning we're up $4.61 or 24%. The average monthly dividend is 95 cents. We need an additional $6.58 to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 6.9 months. PYPY, the initial share price was $19.94. We were paid out $9.25. The share is now worth $19.45, giving us a total value of $28.70. We are up $8.76 or 43%. The average monthly dividend is 71 cents. We need an additional $10.68 to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 15 months. SQY, the initial share price was $18.96. We were paid out $13.26. The share is now worth $20.76, giving us a total value of $34.02. We are up $15.06 or 79%. The average monthly dividend is $1.02. We need an additional $5.69 to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 5.58 months. MRNY, the initial share price was $18.33. We were paid out $9.80. The share is now worth $5.55, giving us a total value of $15.35, which means we are down $2.98 or 16.25%. The average monthly dividend is 75 cents. We need an additional $8.52 in yield. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 11.3 months. AIYY, the initial share price was $20.76. We were paid out $7.51. The share is now worth $10.75, giving us a total value of $18.26, meaning we are down $2.49 or 12%. The average monthly dividend paid out is 68 cents per share, and we need an additional $13.24 in yield to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 19.37 months. MSTY, the initial share price was $21.60. We were paid out $24.42. The share price is now worth $34.89, giving us a total value of $59.31. We are up $37.71 or 174%. The average monthly dividend payout is $3.05, and we are in house money territory. YBIT, the initial share price was $19.93. We were paid out $6.71. The share is now worth $13.83, giving us a total value of $20.54. We are up 61 cents or 2.98%. The average monthly dividend is 95 cents per share, and we need an additional $13.21 to break even. If the average payout remains the same, same, it would take 13.78 months. GDXY, the initial share price was $18.96. We were paid out $3.44. The share is now worth $15.73. This gives us a total value of $19.17. We are up 21 cents or 1.14%. The average monthly dividend per share is 57 cents, and we need an additional $15.51 to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 27 months. SNOY, the initial share price was $20.22. We were paid out $5.35. The share is now worth 21 cents. This gives us a total value of $26.35. We are up $6.13 or 30%. The average monthly dividend paid out is 89 cents per share. We need an additional $14.86 to break even, and if the average payout remains the same, it would take 16.63 months. ABNY, the initial share price was $20.49. We were paid out $2.91. The share is now worth $15.94, giving us a total value of $18.85. We are down $1.63 or about 8%. The average monthly dividend per share paid out is 73 cents. We need an additional $17.57 in yield to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 24 months. BABO, the initial share price was $20.42. We were paid out $3.54. The share is now worth $18.63, giving us a total value of $22.17. We are up $1.75 or 8.6%. The average monthly dividend paid out is 88 cents per share. We need an additional $16.87 in yield to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 19 months. TSMY, the initial share price was $20.09. We were paid out $1.79. The share is now worth $19.98, meaning the total value is $21.77. So we are up $1.68 or 8.4%. The average monthly dividend paid out was 59 cents, and we need an additional $18.29 in yield to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 30.5 months. SMCY, the initial share price was $51.82. We were paid out $7.55. The share is now worth $37.20, giving us a total value of $44.75. We are down $7.06 or 13.63%. The average monthly dividend per share is $3.77. We need an additional $44.26 in yield to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 11.71 months. PLTY, the initial share price was $52.08. We were paid out $5.54. The share is now worth $69.05, giving us a total value of $74.59. We are up $22.51 or 43%. The average monthly dividend payout is $2.77. We need an additional $46.53 in yield to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 16.77 months. YMAX, the initial share price was $20.12. We were paid out $6.98. The share is now worth $18.54, giving us a total value of $25.52. We are up $5.40 or 26.86%. The average dividend since switching to a weekly dividend is 21 cents, and we need an additional $13.13 to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 62 weeks or 15.5 months. YMAG, the initial share price was $20.30. We were paid out $6.37. The share is now worth $19.76. This gives us a total value of $26.13. We are up $5.83 or 28.8%. The average weekly dividend since switching to a weekly dividend is 18 cents per share. We need an additional $13.92 from the yield to break even, and if the average payout remains the same, it would take 75.75 weeks or about 19 months. ULTY, the initial share price was $20. We were paid out $9.30. The share is now worth $10.12, giving us a total value of $19.42. We are down 57 cents or 2.85%. The average monthly dividend per share is $1.03. We need an additional $10.69 from the yield to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 10.33 months. CRSH, the initial share price was $20.05. We were paid out $5.40. The share is now worth $7.13, giving us a total value of $12.53. We are down $7.51 or 37%. The average monthly dividend payout per share is 77 cents. We need an additional $14.64 from the yield. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 18.95 months. Fiat, the initial share price was $20.02. We were paid out $5.94. The share is now worth $8.55. This gives us a total value of $14.49. We are down $5.52 or 27%. The average monthly dividend per share is $1.48, and we need an additional $14.08 from the yield to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 9.47 months. DISO, IPS. The initial share price was $20.96. We were paid out $3.15. The share is now worth $13.02. This gives us a total value of $16.17. We are down $4.78 or 22.8%. The average monthly dividend paid out is 78 cents. We need an additional $17.81 in yield. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 22.59 months. YQQQ. The initial share price was $19.60. We were paid out $1.10. The share is now worth $17.56. This gives us a total value of $18.66. We are down 93 cents or 4.76%. The average monthly dividend paid out per share is 36 cents, and we need an additional $18.49 to break even. If the average payout remains the same, it would take 50.2 months. Let me know your thoughts on the data in the comment section. I'll see you later.